Hello folks, hope you're having a great day today. Today's kind of the third of the five book series where I'm going to be following the books in the Chronicles of Amber series. I'm recording this as soon as I just finished my previous one, but I'm not going to post it for about a month or so because I want to give you guys a chance. These are not long books. I mean, each of them was published novel length at about 180 pages or so. But if you are interested, of course, reading, I have this big giant tome as well as some other things. And I'll link you to it in the comments below. Again, we're picking up where I left off. Roger Zelazny is a hugely awarded author who writes very different things in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. This is his seminal fantasy work, this 5-book series. And there's another 5-book series that follows too that he writes in the 80s. We will probably be taking a look at that, but probably not for a while. I'm probably going to put a sort of, after I finish this 5-book series, the initial Chronicles of Amber probably set Zelazny aside. There's lots of other writers I want to sort of take deep dives into and unpack for you. But Zelazny's a great guy. He's a great writer. I'm very gifted. And you're going to see a lot of his best ideas come to place kind of here in the Chronicles of Amber series, where it's his first series and pretty much his only series that he comes back to and writes again and again and again. So let's take a look. We're about ready to look at the book number 3. And book number 3 is, of course, The Sign of the Unicorn. And again, these are less than 200 pages each. It won't take you long to read them. So this book takes place after the first 2 books. The first book was Nine Princesses in Amber, which I recapped for you in the previous video, so I'll link that to you below. But very briefly, Corwin is engaged in a fight for the throne against his brother Eric. Eric is they're all members of the House of Amber, trying to follow in what they thought was their dead father's footsteps. Only Corwin finds out that his father's actually still alive. His father Oberon. There's a big family clash. There's different members of the family like Random, Brand, Fiona. Lots of these people are on each other's sides, and so forth. And then they're going to start shifting sides. More people are going to be found, and so on and so forth. He ultimately loses at the end of the first book, and he is going to come back even stronger. The second book, Guns of Avalon, is basically about him basically seeing how much damage has been done to existence after Amber, which is the original plane of existence. And all the other planes are kind of copies of it, is in fact a lot of the damage that's been happening with this dark road that goes from plane to plane to plane, which is something that's very unusual, and so forth. So what happens in the second half, basically, of the book, The Guns of Avalon, which this is built on, is that after building up an army, like he thinks he's going to, of these from Avalon and Earth, using guns with gunpowder from Avalon that will actually work on the home plane of Amber, as well as putting them like guns and machine guns from modern Earth. And then having them equipped with shadow soldiers, he's going to launch an attack on the throne of Amber and actually take out Eric, his brother, who blinded him, took him out. He's not a nice guy. So he arrives on Avalon to find out arrives on Amber to find out that Eric is currently undergoing an attack from the courts of chaos by all these wyverns and people and so forth. It's a big giant attack that's being launched. He had tried to be contacted by the Trumps a few times during the course of the story. He said no, he didn't want to be found, or because he's now on the run, and I'm a lamb from his family. And he realizes now that was probably Eric and some other people saying, hey, we're engaged in a battle. But he arrives, and he decides to use his army to help protect Amber. While he does so, Eric dies near the end of the book. He does have this powerful magical object called the Jewel of Judgment, which is kind of the sign of the fact that you're the person who's supposed to in charge of running the House of Amber as well as the Plane of Amber. And the multiverse around it, and the planes of shadow that reflect it to varying degrees. And so he basically bequeaths, Eric does, he launches a death curse against the courts of chaos as he dies, that are attacking them and so forth. And he bequeaths Corwin the Jewel of Judgment, and Corwin steps in. And now Corwin has basically stepped into the role as the King of Amber at the end of book 2. Book 3 opens up with a few things that are going to be happening now in the book 3. Basically, we're going to start to figure out what's really happening and so forth here in the Sign of the Unicorn. And basically, the Sign of the Unicorn is going to be a lot of revelations and so forth. It's going to start off with some stuff that happened in the past. What happened with Random, what happened with some other people and so forth, because at the beginning of the first book, we just kind of start with Corwin's point of view when he's waking up in an insane asylum without any memories at all of who he was. They'd been erased from his mind medically in Earth. So now we're going to find out what had happened up to that point and so forth. And basically what's going to be found out is that there's basically a triumvirate of people that were I'm trying, Eric and two other people in the book, Julian and such, and they're going to have set up the control of the House of Amber and the throne and so forth, and they believe that actually that Corwin is actually coming against them for some other reasons, but in fact he was just trying to take the throne and so forth. And Random himself had been attacked while going from one plane to another and trying to help out one of their brothers who was captured in a tower. So when Random, who's one of the brothers, on that plane being chased by a creature, he thought that creature was being sent by Corwin because it was somebody that Corwin definitely did not like at all. And so he was kind of surprised when he reached out by a trump to see that Corwin was active on Earth. So he goes over to help out. He thought Corwin was not, but the creatures follow him, and then he realizes that Corwin is not on their side at all. So kind of Random and Corwin begin their long allegiance that's going to go from book to book to book, and they're going to be major allies moving forward. So anyway, so what will end up happening also in the Sign of the Unicorn is that Dara is going to be this granddaughter of Benedict, and her and Corwin are going to begin a relationship that begins near the end of the previous book. It's going to have a sexual union and so forth. And then Dara, at the end of the second book, is going to actually walk. After they've captured the world and so forth, she's actually going to walk the pattern, and then say that she's actually that the house, of course, that the courts of chaos are going to rise, and then she disappears, probably to go back to the courts of chaos. And we are introduced. The courts of chaos are basically a plane that's outside of the shadow on the other side. So there's basically courts of chaos on one side, and then Castle Amber and the plane of Amber here on the other side. And the plane of Amber has all these different things that are happening to it. Anyway. So the main first half of the book that we're now reviewing, though, has a lot of this sort of what happened up until now. And there's also this big political intrigue as to who's been killing people, who are fellow Amberites, who's been betraying each other, and so forth. And that sort of suspicion is actually a lot of the first half of this book. And then moving forward, there's going to be a lot of revelations to come. I don't want to give you a whole bunch of that stuff because, hey, again, I don't want to spoiler it for you, but I will in the next review. We'll recap what happened in the second half of the book 3 of the Chronicles of Amber. But again, I want to give you a chance to kind of take a look at it and so forth. Have you read this book? I'm happy to engage you with it further. Again, this book is really going to be very political and what happens and what has really happened. It's got a lot of revelations and so forth. And some interesting things that are going to have to be built upon throughout the rest of the book in the book series. But there's going to be, a lot of things that are going to be happening. You're going to probably really enjoy the sort of political thing if you're coming to it from a modern mindset of, I want my fantasy to be more of this high sort of highbrow people fighting against each other rather than, just fights in the wind against random dragons or trolls or something like that. Then you're not going to you're not going to probably, you're going to be enjoying this series if that's something that you'd like. Again, Zelazny is a mythic writer. Anything that he touches, he's going to add a sort of mythic element to. Whether it's something else, whether it's creating his own mythos here, or whether it's using things like the Cthulhu mythos or the Hebrew mythos and so forth. Everything from Christianity and the Rose for Ecclesiastes to some stuff like Hinduism, he'll use, and Egyptian mythology and stuff he'll use pretty regularly. That's who he is as a writer. So he also does that here with a whole big giant number of people that are fighting against each other. So, have you read the third book of the Chronicles, or any of them? And what'd you think? I'd definitely be happy to sort of engage you with the Unicorn book. What'd you think of it? If you want to talk about some of the spoilers in sort of the review section down there below, I'll be happy to talk with you about that further. I want to thank you also for taking some time out of your day to sit here and invest it with me. We all have busy days, busy lives, and busy things happening. So the fact that you took any of that time at all and spent it with me, I'm really happy about that, so thanks. If you're interested in this, we're going to be doing so many more reviews of things from fantasy, science fiction, and horror. So if you're interested in this, please feel free to hit that subscribe button because there's going to be a whole lot more reviews to follow. And once again, thanks for your time.